The IMSA venue at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is now complete, and many of the questions heading into this race have now been addressed. A lot happened during this event, from intense strategy calls to controversial last lap incidents to the first ever Le Mans hypercar to race on this circuit. So let's break down everything, as this is my complete race report of the 2025 TireRack.com Monterey Sports Car Championship. IMSA headed into round 4 of the WeatherTech Series season with a few storylines to keep an eye on, and one of those factors was regarding qualifying, because the question was, could BMW keep up their perfect pole position form here at Laguna Seca? Belgian racer Dries Vanthoor put his number 24 BMW M Hybrid V8 on the overall pole for the 4th consecutive time in 2025. Meanwhile, for the second time in a row in GTD Pro, Dragon Speed would qualify on top with their number 81 Ferrari 296 GT3, with Giacomo Lotoe putting in a great lap, while Kenton Kush took the number 32 Mercedes from Korthoff Competition Motors to the top in the GTD qualifying session. Once green flags were waved at Laguna Seca, Dries Vanthoor would lead the field away as the number 24 BMW held off the charging Porsche Penske entries behind, with the 2963 entries actually swapping positions, and the two Acuras got ahead of the WTR Cadillac, which started in 4th. Meanwhile, in the GT field, the Dragon Speed Ferrari held the lead, followed by Roxy, with this number 77 Porsche going around the outside at the Andretti hairpin to grab second from the Paul Miller Racing BMW. And thankfully, there were no major incidents across the GT field or the GTP one. On the second lap, Vanthoor grew the gap in the BMW. And honestly, once again, just like all the rest of the events in 2025, the M Hybrid V8 entries looked very strong, and they had the ability to challenge the Porsche Penske Motorsport entries. When it came to the competition in the GTP class throughout this race, it was clear that Porsche and BMW were the manufacturers fighting for the win, where on the other hand, the Acura cars were up in the fight for the top 5, but ultimately they couldn't fight for the victory with the Porsche and BMW entries. Meanwhile, Cadillac and Aston Martin were really nowhere on pace when it came to the competitiveness of the GTP field here at WeatherTech Raceway. When it came to the GT competition, Dragon Speed continued to lead in GTD Pro, with pole sitter Giacomo Altoe still behind the wheel of the Ferrari 296. But as time progressed, the pit stops started to arrive, and things would inevitably change in the Pro category. Regarding the GT pit stops, there would be some drama, as the 021 Triarci Ferrari of Stephen McAleer was released into the path of Alec Udel's DXDT Corvette, which unfortunately stalled the Z06 and really hurt the team's race in general. This for sure was a disadvantage, considering the fact that that Corvette was battling for a top 5 finish in GTD before this incident, and fan favorite Robert Wickens was just about to take over for teammate Udell. As the race progressed, in GTP, Dries Vanthoor would continue to lead in the number 24 BMW M Team RLL car, but by now the two factory 963s had chased him down, as Porsche looked to move ahead of BMW in the standings at Laguna Seca. Speaking of the pit stops for the GT cars though, once again like the previous race in Long Beach, it would be the strategies that really mixed up the leading entries in GTP. The number 6 Porsche Penske was the first of the leaders that elected to pit, and it was quite an early stop for the Porsche Penske Motorsport team. But just before, there was a bit of drama for the 963, as Matt Campbell and a GT WTR Lamborghini made contact at turn 9, which was a small setback for the number 6 GTP entry. Regardless though, this wouldn't affect the Porsche's race at all, as we would see later on. With the number 6 Porsche having made its pit stop early, Nazar in the number 7 car continued to chase down the number 24 BMW of Dries Vanthoor, and eventually with better grip, the Brazilian racer was able to move ahead in the Porsche, and into the lead of this race. Once the leaders in GTP pit though, it would be the number 6 Porsche with Mathieu Jaminet now behind the wheel that would take over the lead, with a different strategy call compared to the sister number 7 and the number 24 BMW. Pit strategy was also a pivotal factor in the GTD Pro ranks as well, with Dragon Speed ultimately losing the lead to the Roxy Porsche. AO Racing's Pink Dinosaur had caught up to the number 81 Ferrari just before the leader's pit, and the team went for an undercut strategy, which ultimately allowed Roxy to take over the lead from the Ferrari at Laguna. Back in GTP, there was a bit of drama for the number 23 Aston Martin Valkyrie. During this race, the car clearly lacked performance, but yet it was running a really strong race, up until the car had a puncture, which was a major setback. Thankfully, Roman DeAngelis was able to get the Valkyrie back to the pits, but this certainly wasn't what the Heart of Racing were hoping for during this event. Speaking of GTP drama, there was an incident at turn 11 between the number 60 Meyershank Racing Acura GTP and one of the factory Corvettes in GTD Pro, which unfortunately gave the Acura some bodywork damage as seen by the smoke coming from the back of the ARX-06, and eventually race control gave the team a mechanical black flag to fix the problem, which forced the Acura to lose 2 laps and move to the very back of the GTP field. However, during this point, it wasn't all bad news for the Ohio-based squad, as the second MSR entry, the number 93 Acura, was still in the hunt for a top 5 finish, as it fought with the Cadillac V-Series R entries and the number 85 JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche, while the 2 Porsche Penske entries and the 2 BMW M Hybrid V8s from Team RLL continued to lead this race overall. Over in GTD, there would be an accident at turn 5 involving the 120 Wright Porsche and the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. The Vantage went into the wall, but surprisingly, it didn't get any major damage, and Casper Stevenson was able to bring the entry back to the track. And interestingly, no yellow flags were brought out. Speaking of a caution period, despite a few incidents out on track, there wasn't actually a single caution period throughout this race, which was a first for the 2025 season. In GTP, with around 50 minutes to go, the race-leading number 6 Porsche 963 pit for its second and final stop of the day, and when the number 7 Porsche pit, Nick Tandy would briefly stay ahead of the sister car, but with colder tires, Gemini was able to reclaim the spot and get into provisional lead once again. The final laps in this race were arguably the most intense, as it could realistically be any of the 3 cars in GTP winning this event overall. At this point, Porsche led 1-2 with the number 6 ahead of the number 7, with Dries Vanthoor now chasing down the leading pair of 963s to hopefully get BMW their first win this season. However, as the final lap neared and Vanthoor couldn't get his BMW ahead yet, Porsche looked good to finish in first and second until a lapped Cadillac was somewhat holding up the leading cars and allowing the BMW of Vanthoor to get into the mix. Although, just to be clear, this wasn't intentional from the red V-Series R. On the final lap of this race, it was clear that the winner in GTP would most likely be the number 6 Porsche. But the second place fight wasn't over yet. Dries Vanthoor saw an opportunity to make a move on Tandy's number 7 Porsche on the final corner on the final lap, but contact was made between the BMW, Porsche, and a GT Lamborghini, which sent the BMW off the track and allowing for Tandy to cross the line in second. Thankfully though, Vanthoor was able to return to the circuit quite quickly and finish in third overall, but I'm sure that the Belgian racer, his teammate Philippine, and BMW M Team RLL were a little disappointed after that race to miss out on a potential second place finish and ultimately the win as well to Porsche after another really competitive showing from the BMW GTP team. Overall, it would be Porsche Penske Motorsport that would win again in 2025 for the 4th consecutive race in a row, but this time it would be the number 6 Porsche 963 with Mathieu Jaminet and Matt Campbell winning overall. The number 6 car was also the winner of last year's event at Laguna Seca, so the crew would indeed repeat their success from 2024 and achieve another win at this iconic American raceway. Like I said before, completing the podium would be the number 7 Porsche and the number 24 BMW, but I gotta say that incident was definitely controversial, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it in the comments below. Following the podium sitters in GTP would be the number 25 BMW, which actually didn't get a lot of attention during this race, and this result helped the German marque to achieve some really strong points in this event with a 3-4 finish. Finally, completing the top 5 in this category would be the number 93 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura. And after all the drama for the number 60 car, it was great to see an ARX06 in the top 5 overall. For GTD Pro, AO Racing, who were the winners of last year, would go back-to-back at Laguna Seca with a commanding victory for Lauren Heinrich and Klaus Bachler in their number 77 Porsche. This time though, in 2025 at this venue, instead of Rexy being victorious, it would be Roxy that took the win. Second in the Pro class would go to the number 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari, after a very solid weekend for the Florida-based squad here at Laguna. And finally, completing the podium would be the number 3 Pratt Miller Motorsports Corvette. Something I do want to mention is that it was actually a really strong day for the Lamborghini Hurricanes at Laguna, and that's not just the case in one class, but in both. In fact, 4th place in GTD Pro would go to a Lamborghini, and that was the number 9 Pfaff Motorsports Hurricane, which was sporting a special Motul livery. Meanwhile, the number 48 Paul Miller Racing BMW would be the entry that completed the top 5 in this class. Finally, in GTD, Windward Racing would also go back-to-back at Laguna Seca, with the number 57 Mercedes winning this race, with Russell Ward and Philip Ellis on top. It was actually a really good day for Mercedes cars in general. Besides the win for the number 57 car, the number 32 Korthoff AMG GT3 started on pole and finished in the top 5 in this category. Completing the podium in GT Daytona would be the number 12 Vasser Sullivan Lexus in second, and the number 34 Ferrari from Conquest Racing, which would achieve third to give the team their first IMSA WeatherTech podium since their win at Motul Petit Le Mans last year. Then it would be that number 32 Korthoff Mercedes, which I mentioned earlier, with the number 78 Forte Racing Lamborghini completing the top 5 in this class. Moving on to the championship standings heading out of the Monterey Sports Car Championship race in 2025. In GTP, the number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsport 963 continues to lead the standings with 1,490 points, while the number 6 Porsche is still in second, but has closed the gap after its win at Laguna. The number 24 BMW RLL entry is in third, followed by the sister BMW, the number 25 car, which is moved up into fourth. And then, completing the top 5 is the number 31 Whelen Cadillac. Following the red V Series R comes the number 93 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura in sixth, followed by the number 10 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac, the number 60 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura, the number 85 JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche, and finally, completing the top 10 is the number 40 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac. The LMP2 standings have not changed since Sebring, since the P2 cars were not at Laguna Seca this year, so I won't mention them and I'll move on to the next class. In GTD Pro, AO Racing extends their lead with the number 77 Porsche on top with 1,014 points, while the number 3 Corvette from Pratt Miller Motorsports is in second, followed by the number 81 Ferrari from Dragon Speed completing the top 3. The Rolex 24 winning number 65 Ford is now in fourth, followed by the 2 Paul Miller Racing BMWs in 5th and 6th. Following those 2 BMWs is the number 64 Ford from Multimatic Motorsports. Then comes the number 4 Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller Motorsports entry, the number 9 Pfaff Lamborghini, and the number 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus completes the top 10. Finally, in GTD, the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes extends its lead like the Roxy or Rexy Porsche, with the number 12 Vasser Sullivan Lexus in second, followed by the number 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche completing the top 3. Then comes the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, followed by the 96 Turner BMW completing the top 5. The Daytona winning number 13 AWA Corvette then comes in 6th, followed by the Conquest Racing Ferrari, the number 32 Korthoff Competition Motors Mercedes, the number 78 Forte Racing Lamborghini, and finally the number 45 Wayne Taylor Lamborghini completes the top 10. With the championship order now done, that completes my IMSA race report of the 2025 TireRack.com Monterey Sports Car Championship. This was truly an amazing event, and I was really happy about the opportunity given to allow me to attend this entire venue in person. And I can't wait till IMSA goes back to Laguna Seca in 2026. Next up in IMSA at the end of May is the Detroit Grand Prix, which is another sprint race happening on May 31st. But regarding this race at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, what are your thoughts on it? Well, be sure to let me know everything in the comments below.